Good evening, everyone. The time is 7 p.m. We will now conduct the meeting this evening. This is the Seabrook School District deliberative session. My name is Paul Kelly. I'll be your moderator this evening. I do have a few housekeeping rules to go over before we begin. First of all, please make notice there are 4 exits to this room in case it's necessary. I'd like you all to stand and get in the pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Again, my name is Paul Kelly. I'm going by, I always call it Kelly's Rules of Order. Very simple. The majority need to rule. The minority need to be heard. If we need to have any amendments to any motions, to any warrant articles, I'll request they'll be in writing. Once I get them in writing, I usually bring them down to town council. He will tell me if they're in good order. If they are, then we will proceed. I'd like the front table if they would introduce themselves first. So we'll start with Mr. Ferrara, if you would start.
Thank you. I'm Matt Ferreira, the Business Administrator for City 21.
I'm Jen Hubbard, Seabrook School Board Member.
Forrest Carter Jr., Acting Chair of Seabrook School Board.
Meredith Native, Superintendent of Schools. Christina Kaiser, Seabrook School Board Member.
Dave Hobbs, Assistant Superintendent of Schools.
Caroline Arcalian, Assistant Superintendent.
Bob Casazza, District Council.
Thank you. So before I read the warrant, begin reading the warrant, there are just 2 things that I would like to mention. One is we may have had a few more people here this evening, but there is a calling hours tonight for an employee of the town of Seabrook that passed away recently. After 40 years, they'll want to know has passed away. So Warner had a long career with the town, and we just want to see if we can memorialize that in the minutes, that we're sorry that Warner is no longer with us. And I'm going to recognize Maria Brown for she wanted to make a quick announcement too.
Maria Brown, resident Seabrook. There's 2 quick things I want to say. We also lost Walter Janbrun. He was a police officer for many years in Seabrook this past week. So God bless him and his family. And then the other piece is we had a student that was one of my students back in the day, and her name is Megan Tully. And today she was sworn in to the Somersworth Police Department, and I just wanted to kind of throw that in there because I think we could do a little more of that at meetings, talk about recognition of kids and staff, go a long way. So, and you may know her, Forrest, I'm sure.
Not familiar with her, but I probably do if I saw her.
Great kid.
Thank you.
I just wanted to congratulate her.
Thank you. Okay, let's move right on to the warrant. We're at the first session of the annual deliberative session, which is tonight at 7 p.m. Snow date, fortunately, we didn't need. The second session will be at the town meeting where the official balloting will occur on March 8th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Rec Center. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read each article, then I'm going to defer to Mr. Ferrara to give us a presentation each article, then I'll open up for questions, comments, and concerns, and that's how we'll conduct our business this evening. So, article number 1, the operating budget. Shall a school district raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth in the budget posted with the warrant, or as amended by the vote of the first session, for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $16,346,949. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $16,080,615, which is the same as last year's, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the school district or law, or a governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 4013, Roman 10, and Roman 16, to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Majority of votes required. The school board and the budget committee recommended this appropriation, and there is a no. This warrant article, number 1, the operating budget, does not include appropriations in any of the warrant articles. Should this article be approved, its estimated cost $4.99 per thousand on the tax rate. Mr. Ferrara would like to speak to article number 1.
Thank you. I would like to thank the school board and the Seabrook Budget Committee for their thoughtful work in presenting and bringing forth this budget, which we feel aligns with the community's values and also moves forward the mission of the school, which is really to provide for a safe learning environment that's conducive to a nurturing and empowering atmosphere for all of our students, to ultimately become responsible, productive, and tolerant members of the community. So when we put together the operating budget, we really look to align how we allocate our resources with that mission, with those core values that we've set forth as a school community. So we've taken care to invest in academic programs and experiences that supports all of our students. And with that overarching goal, we are providing investments to provide for opportunities in education that empowers our individuals to be caring, competent, responsible citizens who truly value education and learning as a lifelong process. Additionally, we focus on our student learning to leverage and maximize the implementation of our competency-based education CBE initiative. This has been a multi-year process, and we are transitioning into really a phase where, out of a consulting phase into a self-propagating phase of teacher work, working on QPAs, rubrics, and bring that CBE initiative to the next level. Finally, we're looking at the appropriate funding and allocation of resources that really maintains and improves our current high level of learning, while also always being cognizant of the remainder of our community and taxpayers who may not be members of the school community. So when looking at a budget process, enrollment is always a metric that we take care to both project forward for short-term and long-term planning. So within the last 5 years, we were in the 700 range of enrollment for students, and that has dipped slightly to current enrollment level of 666 to a projected enrollment level of 650 in 2022-2023. So you'll see that there has been some adjustments in this proposed budget that reflect that slight reduction in enrollment. And we are projecting that will continue or plateau. We don't anticipate a significant reduction from this current level, but we don't anticipate an uptick in the next 5 years. So the overall proposed 2022-2023 operating budget is $16,346,949. This is a 3.95% increase from prior year. However, I will note that it is only 1.78% higher than the default budget of $60,615. And this really reflects the attention to the budget and the reductions and level funding that the school board and budget committee took when developing this budget. When you're looking at the inflationary factors in this environment, cost escalation across the board for supplies and materials, you have cost of living adjustments that are embedded into our collective bargaining agreements and for our non-union staff. A 1.78% increase is very moderate. So you'll see as we go through this budget, we have had significant reductions and/or level funding, and those increases are really contractual or legally mandated items. So before we get into the meat of the budget, I just want to briefly outline some of the primary budget drivers. There were a few areas where we saw significant increases and decreases, and I just want to briefly outline those. The first of which is special education, which is increasing by just over $143,000. And this provides for special education services for our students who have special needs, and that's per their individual education plans, IEPs. And again, those are mandated by state and federal law. Additionally, I alluded to contractual cost of living adjustments, and we are seeing an increase of almost $216,000, which represents those COLA and step increases for our teachers who are part of our collective bargaining agreement. Additionally, our employee benefits are increasing by $134,000, which reflects a 5.7% guaranteed maximum rate. So that's the GMR for our health insurance premiums. We received that GMR in October, and then based on claims history, we received an actual premium increase in March. Additionally, there were increases in PECA contributions, long-term disability insurance, and workers' compensation insurance. Finally, we are seeing an increase in our transportation budget of over $95,000, and this is primarily due to our special education transportation needs. Additionally, we have our normal cost increase for our contract with First Student. Which is a slight increase of $3,316, 0.53%. So the SAU services is the office of the superintendent. So that'd be the superintendent, the finance office, human resources, the assistant superintendent of student services, and the assistant superintendent of curriculum, instruction, and assessments, our payroll, our accounts payable, our power school administrator, and those are shared costs across the entire SAU, and that provides for cost sharing. It really utilizes economy of scale and operational efficiencies. We're able to share costs, share personnel, while allowing for each individual school to have their own autonomy, their own culture, and individuality. The actual cost is based on a formula which is calculated via property tax, and I'm sorry, not property tax, property valuation and enrollment. And that's split between Seabrook, Winnicott, Hampton, Hampton Falls, and Northampton. and so forth. The school administration budget is $643,914, which is an increase of almost $43,000 or 7.12%. This represents staff salary cost of living adjustments, step increases. We've also seen an increase in dues and fees. Wide natural gas rate, which will help, but we do not anticipate any significant reduction in energy costs come the springtime when we do need to contract out. Additionally, with those increases were offset by a slight reduction in some salaries due to changes in staffing. Our grounds is budgeted at $57,500, which is a decrease of $5,000 or 8%. This reflects a reduction in our snow removal account based on actual expenditure history, and I am certain that will bite us in the end. But that is based on the last 5 or so years of unseasonably warm winter. Maybe climate change will work in our favor. Our vehicle expenses are budgeted at $3,200, which is no increase. Our transportation budget is $1,069,816, which is an increase of just over $95,000 or 9.76%. I referenced this earlier as a budget driver, and this really reflects an increase in our special education transportation. But additionally, we have our normal cost escalation with our contractor for student to supply regular education, athletic, field trip, and other transportation services. Employee benefits are budgeted at $4,105,188. This is an increase of just over $134,000 or 2.37%. So I'd referenced the 5.7% guaranteed maximum rate for health insurance premiums. We also have an increase in our retirement employer contributions, FICA, workers' compensation insurance, long-term disability insurance, and incredibly, these increases were slightly offset, and I say very slightly, by a 1.2% reduction in our dental insurance premiums. Apparently, no one is going to the dentist. Yes, we are encouraging all of our employees to have very good dental hygiene. Our debt service is budgeted at $143,109, which is an increase of almost $1,300 or 0.9%. And this reflects the principal and interest payments on our most recent bond issue. That was the building project that almost 20 years ago. So luckily, the last payment is scheduled for August of 2024. So for that budget year, we will see a reduction of approximately $140,000 and a corresponding reduction in the default by about approximately $140,000. So our interfund transfer, that's a confusing account. So for educational purposes, we have a general fund, and that's to fund our school operations. Then we have a food service fund, and that's to fund our food service program, which is supposed to be self-sustaining through revenue. That's through the USDA reduced reimbursement, as well as revenue through students and staff purchasing lunch. We have been fortunate to have a really fantastic food service program that has been able to run at a profit, so we do not anticipate, let me step back. So if the food service program ran a deficit, the general fund would need to cover that deficit, that cost, and that's where the interfund transfer comes into play. It's a transfer from the general fund into the food service fund. We do not anticipate needing that fund because the school food service fund or program runs at a profit. So going into the food service budget of $282,075, we are seeing an increase of just over $24,000 or 9.31%. And that really reflects, so we saw on buildings side some increases due to cost escalation. We're seeing the same on our food and paper goods supplies. And that's really due to the inflationary market that we're seeing. Additionally, we have a staff salary cost of living adjustment and steps. So that brings us to the default. I know everyone is very excited for this to be over. So our default budget is $16,060,615. It is $286,334 less than the proposed operating budget. So on the ballot and on March 8th, when you go to vote, you will have a proposed operating budget in warrant 1. That's what you're voting for. Now, if that ballot initiative fails, then we will have the default budget. So this $16,060,000 that the school board will then have to create a new operating budget based on that number. So they'll have to allocate the funds by account based on that lower default budget number. The default budget is calculated by looking at the prior year's budget, increased or reduced either by debt service, contracts, any legally mandated items, and then reduced by any one-time expenditures or any elimination of staffing. So that brings me to the end. Thank you for bearing with me. I appreciate it.
Any questions or comments of the board on Article number 1? If you come up to the mic, introduce yourself with your name and your address, please. And while you're walking up to the mic, I do have a comment I would make to Mr. Ferrara if I understood the numbers correctly. So if I understand correctly, the COLA for the country was set at 5.9, CPI locally was set at 4.3, yet the lowest number we're seeing is the budget up 3.95. Just trending the right way. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ravi. I live in Seabrook Beach, 104 Ocean Drive.
Robbie, your last name so we can just check the...
My last name is Ravi Kumar.
Thank you.
Question to Matt. What is the number of students we anticipate would take advantage of the Education Freedom Fund? And how would that affect, or how has that been taken into calculation?
So good question. So the Educational Freedom Account is students who qualify based on income thresholds, who are homeschooled or attend a private school. Currently, we have very few students. I don't know the exact number, but a handful of students. So we don't anticipate that changing, although there is legislation currently being considered at the House of Representatives and at the Senate level that could change. And there's actually many bills out there that change different language. So I don't have an exact figure, but that could absolutely change depending on what legislation passes or if it doesn't pass.
Do you have a follow-up before I go to Ms. Brown?
No, he already answered it. He doesn't have the exact number.
Okay, thank you. Maria, I think you're trying to approach the mic.
I just have a few comments and questions. So the first thing I would say, the teacher cut for 118,923. I realize, we're trying to save and that numbers may be a little bit lower than usual. But my concern as I have a lot of relatives in the school, the kids, and the staff with this pandemic. I know, you may think you don't need it, but me personally, I would tell you that would be the last thing to cut right now is numbers of staff. We lose them every day. I mean, whether they're sick or, can't come back or don't want to come back because, hey, it's been a tough time. And cutting a staff number right now in this pandemic really makes me nervous. I worry about the education of the kids, but also keeping the staff here. And so I know tonight we actually essentially could put that money back in the budget. With that said, Matt, do you know what the percentage, what the rate that would be on the tax, on the budget? The 118,923?
It would be approximately, I don't know the exact number, but it'd be approximately like 0.035,
That's about
thereabouts. I will also note that this is a paid position that is not a person that we're reducing. It's a retirement that we're not filling.
Right, it's a retirement that
I just want to make that clear that we're not eliminating an actual staff member.
Oh, no, but it is an actual position that we could fill if the money was there. So I haven't been able to listen to all the dynamics of why the school board agreed that, you know what, maybe we should do this, because in my eyes right now, we should keep all the positions we possibly can funded. The taxpayers are good to the school, and they usually, vote in favor. So cutting a amount of money that could support another staff member in the elementary end, I think, that's a little tough to swallow. And then my other question is the summer school program has not increased at all. I would like to have seen, and Mr. Hobbs, I watch you in Hampton Falls. Ms. Nato, I listen to you, I listen to your principals, and your school board meetings are amazing there. Because you know what you talk about? You talk about kids and education and teaching. And we need to get there. Reason being, as you all know, our kids are struggling. Whether it's from the past 2-year pandemic, the remote learning, whatever the reason may be, they're struggling. And summer school should have been a place where maybe we looked at a little more money there, whether it's from ESSER funding or however it comes in through the taxpayers, because I think we should be looking forward to a plan of how we can recoup these kids that are lost, and how we can help the teachers when these kids come back in for the next grade level to be somewhat where they need to be. They're teaching, and they're forced to teach right now, first grade, second grade, third grade, in the third grade level. How they do it, I don't know. What the answers are, I don't know. However, I do know that getting together and looking for a plan for summer school to recoup and help everybody, that amount of money is really low and hasn't changed in a lot of years. So it's just a food for thought to look at moving forward, but I truly think that we have a need. I'm sure you all agree we have a need. It's not a surprise. So I guess that those are the things. I don't know whether, it's appropriate. I mean, I'm sure that you've all looked at reasoning yet. We can afford not to have that extra teacher going in. But educational-wise, could we use that extra teacher and maybe to make a class size that is 20 in class? I know you and I have talked about that. Class sizes in some of the classes are a lot bigger this year. Last year they were 10, 11 because of the pandemic, right? So I think we just need to think moving forward, how can we use that summer school program to help? Because I don't know about any of you, but if you look into tutoring, it's about $120 for 2 sections, which are 30 minutes each. This year. Last year they were 10, 11 because of the pandemic, right? So I think we just need to think moving forward, how can we use that summer school program to help? Because I don't know about any of you, but if you look into tutoring, it's about $120 for 2 sections, which are 30 minutes each. $120. Our rate of free and reduced lunch here is almost 50%. So to ask our families to do that, it's virtually impossible. I know there is a STARS program that has the after-school academic piece. I don't know what happened. I mean, if we can even keep teachers in here and well right now, I think that's everybody's main focus. But I'm just, I guess, looking for some feedback from the school board members and then, of course, the superintendent. as to if you really feel strongly that you do not need another person to come in the elementary end. And if you do, I trust that you've all looked at it, okay. But if you don't, I have no problem if we need to add that amount back in to give that support to the staff and the students. So I guess if I could hear from the 3 school board members and superintendent, I appreciate it.
Yeah, Maria, if you guys don't mind, just jump in right in. First of all, I want to say thank you. Those were 2 really great points that you brought to the table. I do think it's worth reevaluating. Of course, there were reasons when we've gone through it and cut a budget items down, but I mean, you make a valid point, you know, and the town is really great. The taxpayers are really great too. I, for one, do think that we could review it, take a look at it, and see if that's an adjustment we could make. No promises, but obviously I think that's the direction to go. I will touch base in the summer school thing as well. It's very much beginning pieces right here, but I can tell you that there is a team that is working together, the admin team, and they're coming up with their plan for what that could look like in the summer. And I want to point out the SRD and what SAS and the SRD do is a lot of that. And what I'm hearing from you is really important information, especially considering we have a meeting coming up, is to incorporate more of the educational components and really hammer in kind of what's already there, but make it more intentional. So I would absolutely, once these things start getting going in terms of the summer programs and that, I will definitely reach out to you because I think you've got some really great ideas. I do.
Anyone else like to speak to Mrs. Brown's comments before she addresses any other comments? Does the superintendent wish to talk, or any other board member wish to talk? Superintendent, please.
Briefly, thank you. I would just note that we do have ESSER funds set aside for summer programming. That's been part of our proposal, and that really is part of the intent. We're expanding that program based on the need that has occurred over the last 2 years to support education. So we didn't feel we needed to add that to the operating budget. There was a great deal of deliberation with our administrators about reducing the teachers. And we've also looked at the possibility of 2 other teachers moving into math intervention roles at the elementary school. That's where we've seen the strong need for support, is in that intervention model. We've left some flexibility so that if enrollment does increase, those 2 teachers could be reassigned back into the classroom level. I mean, certainly adults can always be put to use as educators in our school system, no question. I think administration feels confident that we can support the needs of our children coming in with 1 less staff member. And that really is driven by enrollment that we've seen this year in our kindergarten and that we're projecting coming forward.
Are there any further questions or comments on Mrs. Brown's original comments from the board? If not, we will defer back to Mrs. Brown if she wants to make another statement.
And I do, and I wanted to reach out. I have watched the last 4 or 5 months of school board meetings, and I know Forrest, I do hand it to you the last meeting. You did very well. However, I hope moving forward for our residents and our kids and our staff, that we find a way to balance and welcome, because people are not here. Back in the day, this room was full. It's our kids. Most important thing in the world, our kids. And then the other second thing in line is people's wallets, right? They're not here. So however that needs to be done, we need to do it. And I think, just wanted to thank you all in this time of the unknown, I call it, for the last year and a half. Our staff stuck by us, whether it's the cafeteria worker, the teacher, the administration sitting in front of you, the principals. We've had some flux, but sometimes change is a good thing, right? So we're going to go with it and make the best of it. But moving forward, I would ask the board members to try to be a little less on social media, because it's hurting our town. People are reading that stuff, and they're engaging, and they're seeing it. And not all of it.
We're talking about article number 1, so it be germane.
Well, I'm talking about why the worth is that the taxpayers are paying all this money.
I understand, but
And
we've
the
got 12 minutes,
importance,
and we can do that at the end of when there's other questions and concerns. But
I don't have a question, just if they could balance it.
Sure.
Because
Okay.
it's really hard. So thank you all, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. So any further questions or comments from anyone else in attendance on article number 1?
Move the question.
Hearing none, seeing none. Article 1 will appear on the ballot as presented. Article 2. To see if the school board, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $125,000 for the purpose of repaving parking areas and roadways at Seabrook Middle School. This is a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32.7 Roman 6 and will not lapse until the project is complete or by June 30th, 2025, whichever is sooner. The majority vote is required. The school board and the budget committee recommend this appropriation, and its majority vote required. Should this article be approved, is estimated to have a cost of 0.0382 cents per thousand the tax rate. Mr. Ferrara, would you like to speak to article number 2?
Thank you. So yes, the school board is proposing the issuance of a warrant article to raise and appropriate $125,000 to repave the middle school parking lot. This is the first phase of a multi-phase paving project plan. Currently, the existing parking lot pavement, both at the elementary and middle school, has started to deteriorate to poor condition. So there is some, it is creating some unsafe driving and some improper drainage that we do need to address.
Questions or comments on article number 2? Seeing none, hearing none. Article 2 will appear on the warrant as presented this evening. Article number 3, to see if the school board will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $45,000 for the purpose of purchasing a new tractor. The school board and the budget committee recommend the appropriation. Majority vote is required. Should this article be approved, it is estimated it will cost 0.0137 cents per thousand the tax rate. Mr. Ferrara would like to speak to article number 3.
Thank you. Yes, the school board is proposing the purchase of a tractor in the amount of $45,000. This is to provide for important snow removal services as well as maintenance of grounds and athletic fields. The existing tractor has reached end of life and currently requires annual repairs and maintenance, which are becoming cost prohibitive. Thank you.
Questions or comments of the board on article number 3? Hearing none, seeing none. I'm sorry, if you would go to the mic, please.
Question. My name is Ravi Kumar from 104 Ocean Drive. Is this asset for exclusive use only by the elementary and middle schools, or would this also be available for use by other parts of town, like our DPW?
So the purchase is for the school district. Now that being said, we have always had the position that we're always willing to work with the town. So if there were a need where they approached us and for use of the tractor, then I can speak on behalf of our facilities manager that we would absolutely be willing to work with the town and share resources, because as I think we're all aware, we are a single tax base where our tax monies are all going into both the town and the school side. So it is in all of our best interest to share resources and for items such as this or other areas. So I'd be 100% supportive of sharing a resource such as a tractor if it is an appropriate and reasonable request.
Further questions or comments on article number 3? Hearing none, seeing none, article 3 will appear on the official warrant as presented this evening. Article number 4, the Special Education Expendable Trust. To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate $50,000 to be added to the existing Special Educational Expendable Trust Fund, with up to $50,000 to be funded from the June 30th, 2022 unassigned fund budget available for transfer on July 1, 2022. No additional amount to be raised from taxation. The school board and the budget committee recommend this appropriation, and a majority vote is required. Mr. Ferrara would like to speak to article number 4.
Thank you. Yes. So the school board is proposing the funding of the Special Education Expendable Trust with $50,000. This would be utilizing unreserved fund balance. So that's important to note that is not that's for year-end balance, not raised via additional taxation. So as I think I mentioned earlier, budgeting and those associated funding for special education does continue to present fiscal challenges to the district. It is a volatile account year to year. So this trust was established initially for the purpose of funding these volatile special education costs. So we do feel it's beneficial to replenish this trust to safeguard the school district and the town and mitigate future unexpected costs. I will note that the current balance for the trust is $331,301. We do have a target balance of $400,000, so this will bring us just under our target. And I will note that target was established based on a kind of a highest cost for an out-of-district placement. So a single student sent to an out-of-district placement on the more expensive side could be $400,000 to $500,000. I mean, if a student has significant needs or they're residential out-of-placement. So that was the rationale for that target amount. Thank you.
Questions or comments on Article number 4? Hearing none, seeing none. Article 4 will appear in the warrant as it was this evening. A petition article, Child Benefit Services. To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $16,854 to provide child benefit services in accordance with RSA 189:49 for students who are residents of the Seabrook School District and attend Sacred Heart School located in Hampton, New Hampshire. Citizens petitioned by 25 or more registered voters of the town of Seabrook. The school board does not recommend the appropriation. The budget committee recommends this appropriation and a majority vote is required. Should this article be approved, it is estimated it will cost about .0051 cents per thousand tax rate. Is the petitioner in the building tonight? I don't see the petitioner. Mr. Farrar, could you give us maybe an overview then of Article 5?
Certainly. So Sacred Heart on an annual basis presents this citizens petition article. This is to supplement materials and supplies costs for the Seabrook students who attend the Sacred Heart school. So they actually, so just for your reference, they put together an itemized list of supplies. So they, in this case, educational technology, general supplies, and then instructional materials and textbooks. And that's at $1,053 per student.
Questions or comments on Article number 5? Ferrara, and then if you go to the mic, take you up to Mr. Ferrara. Mr. Ferrara. Calling people the wrong name. Ron, yes, sir. Go ahead.
Question. Driving 104 Oregon Drive. Is there any state allocation that the school district receives that on behalf of the students who go to Sacred Heart?
We do not receive adequate education funding for students that attend private school.
You don't? Thank you.
Long walk.
My name's Gary Fowler. How many students?
What street are you on, Mr. Fowler?
What street?
What street?
Washington.
Thank you.
For 75 years. How many students go there from here?
So that represents 16 students.
Now, what are these supplies? Books and pencils and papers and all that junk?
I don't know the specifics, but they listed it out as educational technology, supplies, and instructional materials and textbooks.
Okay, so textbooks and construction materials, and it means pencils and papers. Now, we, in our budget here, have that figured in for those 16 students, right?
No, because they're not students at Seabrook.
So what if they come back to the school district?
If they were to come back to the school district, then obviously there would be some incremental cost to those students.
Right. So we're not paying for those students now through the Seabrook School District?
Well, there's certainly fixed costs, but no, these students attend a private school, so we do not.
So when this article first appeared years ago, I asked that question, and I was told by the school board at that time that we have to have that same amount of materials in this school system to cover those students over there. So if they do to come back, we have it here now. Is that not the case?
No, we don't earmark. If a student were to return, then there's certainly be costs, but we don't earmark $16,000 for students that may come back from private school. No.
No, but you've got it here already for that. In my opinion, I'm paying for it twice.
We don't receive.
I've always been opposed to this article. Always.
Well, the school board did not recommend it.
And I congratulate the school board for that.
Further questions or comments on Article number 5? Hearing none? Seeing none? Article 5 will appear on the official warrant as presented this evening. Article 6. To see if the school district vote to authorize indefinitely until rescinded to retain year-end unassigned general funds in the amount not to exceed in any fiscal year 5% of the current fiscal year's net assessment in accordance with RSA 198:4-B, Roman 2. Majority vote is required. Would you like to speak to Article number 6, please?
Thank you. So the school board is proposing the adoption of a fund balance retention warrant article, which is a non-monetary warrant article because there is not an appropriation of funds. However, there is a financial impact. This warrant article is meant to safeguard the school district from any unusual circumstances that may result in over expenditure of appropriations. Additionally, we can utilize this balance to help stabilize tax rate setting over time. So what we can do is if there's a increase in the budget in one year or a decrease, we can either return a higher amount to the town or a lower amount accordingly, and work with the town administrator to determine what's returned to the town. So that can really be beneficial in smoothing out the peaks and valleys when we look at tax rates for the town. And this allows for the school district to retain up to 5%. So that's a max total. And it's really just that contingency for emergencies and tax rate setting. Thank you.
Any questions? Any questions or comments on Article number 6? Hearing none? Seeing none. Article 6 to appear on the official warrant as presented this evening. Article 7, any other business to come before us tonight? I did tell Mrs. Brown if she did want any more comments, the section on article, you can come up and make any closing comments you'd like.
Thank you very much. I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any other business that can be legally come before this board this evening? Hearing none, seeing none, we will stand adjourned until March 8th on 2022 at 7 a.m. at the Rec Center, where the official ballots shall be cast. We stand adjourned until then. Thank you, everyone. Good night.